didn't get the necessary education that they were supposed to receive from in-person learning, then you failed yourself as an educator, as a parent, and as a member of society in the community. Because when one of us fail, we all fail.
And that's why Transitional Changes, me and Queen Summers can't cry out enough for you to call 910-985-9090. Counsel to us, talk to us about your frustration. I am not no rover of not having no frustration about this whole pandemic. I can release that in a positive way to encourage you to do the same, to do it to us. We will take that energy with you and turn it around, because tomorrow is a new day.
Turning every day into a learning day may sound like a bit much, but it really isn't if you go about it the right way. Whenever possible, encourage your child to explore the world around them. Ask them questions and make connections. Help them categorize, classify, and think critically of what they see and experience. By turning every day into a learning day will help your child develop the internal motivation to learn in the classroom, at home, or wherever he or she may be.
Way to do this is not to walk around in fear. When we get to this point of no excuse, like I stated, it's going to turn into some type of frustration. And we're advocating for you to reach out to anybody. Before you be around your coworker complaining, before you build yourself up to some type of anger to take it out on an innocent person, have somebody that you can reach out on our webpage or at transitionalchangesmission.wordpress.com. We got a hotline of many different types of numbers and organizations that can line up to you to give a helping hand or this conversation. Because like I said, we are the bridge to the communication. We're going to bridge this together to close the gap, because we are walking on unknown territory, which is good. Change is good, but you got to transition your mind, your body, and your spirit and soul to all walk together. And it should lead you to the path of righteousness to be a servant or even have the most greatest humanity on this planet. And we all got to get there, and we all got a purpose in this life. So with that said, we are going to come back and we're going to come up with solutions about that. And as always, we're going to drop some Black history knowledge in this month of February.
Oh yes. So stick around. This is your host, Queen Summers.
And King Summers. Thank you so much for tuning in.
Hi, and welcome back to Transitional Changes Mission Podcast Show. This is your host, Queen Summers.
And your host, King Summer. Like I said on the first half, I'm going to express some of the frustrations and outlet to you and try to help us through this process of releasing and breathing again. Get to our righteous path. Now, I'm going to start out to say, with this episode being No Excuses, I'm going to give an example of why we call this No Excuses. One thing about no excuses to a perfectionist like me, it's like a curse and a blessing. And what I mean by that is, when you're a perfectionist at something, it's never no ending. It's always an extra level of goodness. It's called a sturdier, disciplinary type of person. Want things particular where they at, and it's a wire in their mind to where it aggravates them and everything else. And I'm similar to that myself. So in a way, I embrace that all the way to accept who I am. Therefore, I can make a perfectionist to know that to understand there's no ending, I embrace that. And what I mean by that is that when my mind clicked on saying, dang, I did a good job, or somebody pat me on the back, I might reflect immediately saying I could have did it better. But I used to get frustrated with that. But now I embrace that, and so it actually does work for me to get better. So with no excuses, when you look at it with no ending, I would say we all did a good job. You all are still above 6 feet or still walking around giving blessings to the next person. That's a good job through this pandemic. Nobody ain't telling you this for you just to be here is a blessing.
Mm-hmm. Indeed.
I'm going to say continue to do the best. And so that's why we talking to ourselves about what could I have done different and not to come up with no excuses. Because it's better to think about the future than thinking about the past, and beating yourself up about it is no excuse. These are the things that I said that was no excuse. There's no excuse for the way these countries or the globe handled this pandemic from the beginning. It's no excuses for 90% or maybe 70% of the world not take the advantage of this opportunity. It's no excuses for our kids to have failed back in school with all this technology and stuff that they was promoting before the pandemic. No excuses for our state leaders, our world leaders to not do their job. It's so many no excuses that we'll be pointing fingers at the end of the day. But I'm trying to say it out loud now to recognize it with yourself and to recognize and be prepared for it when the media come out with it. With that negative energy, you will already be building up your force field. And you might look at it like it's just entertainment. To get the ones with their eyes closed, with the ones with their eyes open, that force field will protect you from this negative energy that is always going to be around.
That's right, and the U.S. Department of Education offers a very compelling reason why STEM education is important. And this is what they say. In an ever-changing, increasingly complex world, it's more important than ever that our nation's youth are prepared to bring knowledge and skills to solve problems, making sense of information, and know how to gather and evaluate evidence to make decisions. These are the kinds of skills that students develop in science, technology, engineering, and math, disciplines collectively known as STEM. If we want a nation where our future leaders, neighbors, and workers have the ability to understand and solve some of the complex challenges of today and tomorrow, and to meet the demands of the dynamic and evolving workforce, building students' skills, content knowledge, and fluency in the STEM field is essential. Not just them getting an education, but to meet the demands of the dynamic and evolving workforce. Building student skills, content, knowledge, and fluency in STEM fields is essential. And studies have shown that those who are more educated are more likely to live longer, live healthier lives, and are even more likely to help strangers. Investing in various types of education from the time children are young ensures that they have a strong foundation and that the whole person is being educated. The more diverse and well-rounded we can make education for our children, the better educated they'll be.
Yes, they will. And I would say this, time is on our side. It always has been on our side because it's going to continue to tick forward. just that you have to catch up with it, maybe. Or you might be a little bit forward from it. You got to know how to do all these things. With transition to changes, we're going to do it together. For all these no excuses, we're going to turn that into a positive when you start reflect back and say, there's no excuses that I participated in these bad, violent protests of 2020. There's no excuse as a whole we haven't figured out a better way to do democracy. We got to recognize all these flaws to embrace them, to become better with each other.
That's right. That's right. Which brings us to a wonderful educator in our Black History series this month. The King and I got a chance over the weekend to watch a movie that I know a lot of us have seen maybe 5-6 times in our lifetime. The movie Lean on Me. And we'll be talking about Mr. Joe Louis Clark, first serving as a Patterson grade school teacher and the director of camps and playgrounds in Essex County, New Jersey. Clark soon found his calling in administration as principal of PS6 Grammar School. This is from what his family said in a release. Under Clark's command, the once failing school was transformed into the Miracle of Carroll Street, committed to the pursuit of excellence. Clark greeted the challenges presented to him following his appointment as the principal of crime and drug-ridden East Side High School with eager optimism, the release stated. In one day, he expelled 300 students for fighting, vandalism, abusing teachers, and drug possession, and lifted the expectations of those that remained, continually challenging them to perform better. Roaming the hallways with a bullhorn and a baseball bat, Clark's unorthodox methods won him both admirers and critics nationwide. Patterson Superintendent of Schools Eileen Schaefer said Clark left an indelible mark on public education by being fiercely devoted to the students in his care. He demanded more from his students because he believed they could achieve more than what was expected of them. And with his bullhorn and baseball bat, and Joe Clark courageously stood in the way of anyone who dared to try to lure a young person down the wrong path. But in the end, it is the many lives Joe Clark influenced for the better that have become his greatest legacy. Mr. Clark passed away in December of 2020, and his legacy lives on. We thank you from Transitional Changes Mission Podcast Show Incorporated. We thank you for your contribution.
Morgan Freeman played that all the way to the T, I would say.
He did.
With that Black History, I'm going to mix it with the episode we were just talking about, no excuses. Reflection of the past is good. It's a way to learn how to do it that leads to the future. And we want to talk about that in this Black History. Now, I'm going to start out by saying there should not be no excuse for one culture to have most of its citizens in incarceration. That's the African Americans here in America. 80% of African Americans are incarcerated. There's no excuse for that. There's no excuse since we African Americans came off the boat or was over here before they came over here, still going through bias ways or racist tension throughout their community and society. There shall not be many things that I could continue to have a whole show on for one culture of the Black History Month that we can say that there's no excuse. But we're going through this process together. We reflect back to all this stuff to not have no excuse. But then when you get to the present, you start to say, have things really changed? This is the transition point in your mind. You should start remembering